Discover 3 spine-chilling true horror stories, Sinister End of Summer Secrets Revealed. Tom Anderson stood in the backyard, sweat pooling under his arms as he flipped the burgers, the sun casting an eerie golden hue across their neatly trimmed lawn. Each sizzle echoed like a warning, a reminder of the normalcy he desperately clutched onto while shadows danced in the corners of his mind. Lately, he noticed a figure lurking at the edge of their suburb, watching. Flashes of paranoia spiked his heart, leaving him breathless. Was it just his imagination, or was someone truly there? Inside, Sarah rummaged through their collection of garden gnomes, her hands trembling as she uncovered fresh carvings, words etched into the ceramic that chilled her to the bone. "You're next," one read. What did it mean? Panic gripped her, and as she turned, the laughter of their daughter Lily rang out like a warning bell from the distance, cutting through the warm summer air. As the sun dipped lower, neighbors began to arrive, forming a tapestry of friendly smiles and warm chatter. But beneath that facade, Sarah sensed something sinister brewing. The vegetables sat untouched on the buffet table, the laughter around her growing increasingly discordant. She plastered a smile on her face, one that felt more like a mask. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The shadows lengthened, strange noises echoed, a low growl or maybe something scraping against the ground. Tom turned his head, adrenaline flooding his veins. Then it happened. Lily disappeared from her circle of friends, laughter fading into sudden silence. Panic surged through him as he and Sarah began calling out her name. When she finally reappeared, her giggle sounded hollow, twisted. Something felt wrong. No more distant laughs filled the air, now there was only their mounting dread. They found food disappearing from the table as eyes darted around, friends exchanging quick, nervous glances. Familiar faces turned into unreadable masks. Tom's chest tightened with every flash of movement he caught from the corner of his eye. Something lurked in the darkness, taunting him. He walked towards the garden, heart racing more each step, his hands trembling as he bent down to grab a rock. Beneath it lay another message, more threatening than the last. "You think you're safe here?" The words tangled his stomach in knots. The neighbors, the friendly faces, they were fool's gold. At that moment, their good-natured summer party dissolved into a nightmare. The pink and orange glow of the sunset faded into foreboding shadows. No longer were they just neighbors, they were figures of distrust, of newly fashioned fear. Then, out of the corner of his eye, movement stirred. The sinister neighbor from 3 doors down stepped from the shadows, a sickly smile across his face. "Did you really think you could hide?" he called, his voice a smooth knife piercing the rising tension. Tom's heart raced, terror flooding his system. A fresh wave of confusion and dread washed over them. How could they escape their own home, their own trust twisted into something unrecognizable? He gripped Sarah's arm as they turned to run, the collective horror swirling into a desperate race through their once beloved neighborhood. Closer and closer, a creeping darkness was upon them. Who could they trust when it felt like the whole world conspired against them? They sprinted down the street, the echo of their hurried footsteps merging with the sound of laughter that now felt mocking. Streetlights sputtered to life, casting long, jagged shadows that twisted and curled like fingers reaching for them. Tom didn't stop, he couldn't. The panic fueled his legs, but the fear gripped his heart. The neighbor's laughter followed them, a sinister melody playing in the background. "Where do we go?" Sarah shouted, voice straining, eyes wide with terror. "The park. The playground." Tom responded, not fully convinced it was safer, but desperate for anywhere but here. They passed couples standing too close, friends huddled in whispered conversations, their eyes turned towards Tom and Sarah, now appraised as prey in a world gone mad. Inside the park's perimeter, the familiar scent of fresh grass turned stale beneath the moonlight. It suffocated Tom with its sweetness, knowing they were still being hunted. They headed towards the slide, a remnant of childhood joy that now felt like a tomb. Tom leaned against a tree, panting. He dared a glance back. The street where they had just fled now felt like a scene from a horror film, the sense of normalcy distorted within his memory. "Did you see how he grinned?" he whispered, dread pooling in his gut. "Yes, something was wrong," Sarah replied, her voice trembling as she scanned the darkened playground. The swings creaked, swaying lightly, untouched by the night breeze. Suddenly, Lily dashed ahead, drawn to the shadowy figure swinging aimlessly, but her innocent laughter echoed eerily like a death knell. "Mommy! Daddy! Look at me!" "Lily, no!" Tom shouted, adrenaline ripping through his limbs as he lunged forward. But just as he reached her, the swings stopped, and the figure vanished, a mere wisp of darkness that left only a dreadful chill. When they caught up with Lily, she stood still, eyes fixated on the space where the figure had been. "Where did he go?" "It was fun." Tom and Sarah exchanged horrified glances. The child's joy gripped them like an iron vice, twisting deeper. "Enough playing. We need to go home," Tom ordered, his voice strained. Anxiety clawed at him, and he felt the weight of the lurking dread pressing down. As they turned to leave, the unmistakable sensation of being watched enveloped them. Sarah gasped, her fingers tightening around Lily's hand. "Behind you." Tom whipped around, but the swing set was empty. Nothing but the empty air whispered against his skin. "Stop it, this isn't funny." He yelled into the dark but was met with silence. Yet the shadows beneath the trees twisted and swayed, whispering their secrets in voices that were not friendly. Lily let out a giggle and clapped her hands. "Can we play tag?" "No." Sarah snapped, pulling her closer. "We don't play here anymore." The whole place was suffocating, the darkness swallowing every flicker of hope. Then, soft giggles erupted from the trees, more children's voices joining in a chorus of laughter that felt sinister, mocking. "Stay close," Tom ordered, but his eyes darted around, hyper-aware of every rustle of leaves, each whisper of the wind, now teeming with suspense. Then it hit him, a gut-wrenching realization. He looked at Sarah. "What if it's not just us? What if they're all in on it?" Fear rippled through Sarah's face, a nightmarish trend intertwining their reality with some twisted game they had inadvertently stepped into. In the distance, a sound echoed, a blend of shrill laughter and sinister growls. They weren't just being watched, they were surrounded. The shadows lengthened again, tightening around them like hands grasping for their very souls. "Run!" Tom yelled, not waiting to see if they would follow. The park, once a refuge, had transformed into a playground of horrors closing in. As they bolted toward the exit, laughter echoed behind them again, but it was closer now. With a sudden scream from deep within the trees, the darkness dove towards them. What awaited them beyond the fence? Was there even safety outside, or was it just as dangerous? The suffocating enormity of what lay ahead bore down. As they raced for their lives. As they broke through the tangled underbrush, the harsh scrape of branches against their skin felt like the claws of something ominous and unyielding. The park's path faded behind them, swallowed by the darkness. Tom felt the familiar weight of dread pressing down, but adrenaline propelled him forward. "Go faster," he urged, the urgency in his voice slicing through the night like a blade. Sarah's breath came in sharp, quick bursts beside him, but she clutched Lily tightly, the child oblivious to the nightmare unfolding around them. The laughter faded, but not the haunting feeling of being pursued. It wrapped around them tighter than the shadows. Each footstep echoed in Tom's mind, a countdown to an inevitable conflict. No sign of life beyond them, no headlights, no friendly sounds. Just the suffocating blackness, like a living thing, undulating and breathing. Tom! Sarah gasped suddenly, halting him. What if it finds us? We have to keep moving. He glanced back. The shadows behind them swirled, a taste of malevolence he couldn't shake. There's something wrong with those people. Look! Sarah pointed towards a flickering light, barely visible through the trees. A faint glimmer, warm and inviting. It beckoned like a siren's song. Maybe it's help. Tom grabbed her wrist, urging her toward the glow. As they inched closer, the light grew brighter, casting long shadows dancing against the trees. With each step, the laughter returned, an insidious chorus that resonated deep in the pit of his stomach. Lily tugged at Sarah's hand, innocently oblivious to the tension. Mommy, I want to see. No, Lily. Stay close. Sarah pulled her back, but the child's curiosity proved stronger. She whipped away, taking off toward the light. Lily! Tom shouted. Panic surged through him as he saw her silhouette bouncing against the invasive shadows. He lunged forward, frustration boiling. Come back. But the little girl was already at the edge of the clearing, roots and damp earth clawing at her feet in a delicate dance. The light flickered ominously above her, revealing a twisted figure standing just beyond the glow, a dark, elongated shape, grinning impossibly wide. No, Tom stumbled, dread coursing through him like ice. The laughter intensified, wrapping around him in a chilling embrace. It was hungry, eager. Lily! Get away from there! Sarah cried, panic lacing every word. She rushed forward, her foot catching on a hidden root. She fell to the ground, the thud echoing in the eerie calm. Tom fought against his own fear, muscles screaming as he dashed towards Lily. He could see the figure more clearly now, its eyes gleaming with a sickly, golden light, a predator just waiting to pounce. Lily! He grabbed her wrist just as she reached for the figure. The moment his hand clasped around her small arm, the chilling laughter stopped. Silence enveloped them, thick and heavy, as the figure tilted its grotesque head, those golden eyes narrowing in on Tom. Every instinct screamed at him to recoil, but he couldn't let go. Run! He shouted, pulling Lily back. The figure's grin widened, a split second of realization firing through Tom's brain, X-ray clarity of both horror and urgency. That smile was more than sinister, it felt insatiable. They finally began to retreat, stumbling back into the trees, straining to hold on to the path they had come from. But the moment they turned, the light behind them dimmed until only shadows remained. It was as if the darkness had swallowed it whole. As they dashed deeper into the trees, another sound hit them, a whisper. Stay forever, it cooed, a chilling suggestion that threaded itself into Tom's bones. The path ahead twisted and turned into a web, every direction leading further into the unknown. Tom looked back one last time, the haunting laughter returned, echoing through the night, taunting them. What lay ahead? Was the light truly a refuge, or simply another trap? The oppressive darkness loomed, waiting to claim its next victims. Every step felt like a countdown to something unspeakable. Would they find safety, or become yet another shadow swallowed by the night? Branches whipped against Tom's face, sharp as daggers, as he pulled Lily tighter against him. Every instinct urged him to break into a sprint, yet his legs felt heavy, unwilling to cooperate. The whisper still echoed in his ears, stay forever. It twisted in his mind, blurring the line between reason and fear, sinking deeper into the marrow of his bones. Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper, her eyes wide with terror. What was that thing? I don't know. He was panting now, lungs burning with exertion. But we can't stop. We have to find a place to hide. As they pressed onward, the trees twisted ominously overhead, gnarled fingers stretching out as if to snatch them back into the shadows. The air grew heavier, thicker with dread, making each breath feel like a struggle. Tom moved through the darkness, scanning for any sign of safety or danger. Look! Sarah pointed wildly to their left where a crumbling stone structure jutted from the ground, half hidden among the foliage. It was barely more than a foundation now, but it offered some promise of cover. "We can go there. It's better than out here," Tom agreed, forcing himself to push forward. They slipped into the shadows of the ruins, crouching low. The stones felt cold and damp against Tom's palms. Inside, the air was stale, filled with the scent of rot and decay. They were surrounded by the remnants of something long forgotten. Just a few fleeting glances revealed rusting metal and shattered glass, remnants of a time that felt eerily out of place. The laughter had quieted, but something even darker began to fester in the silence. They huddled close, breaths mingling and trembling in the chilling air. "Lily, hold on tight," Sarah instructed, eyes darting around nervously. Tom could hear it, an almost imperceptible rustling, inching closer. It wasn't their imaginations. Something was watching them, lurking just beyond the ruins. Suddenly, Lily gasped. "What's that?" Her tiny voice broke the stillness, sending a tremor of fear racing through Tom. "Stay quiet," he hissed, heart pounding as he turned to where Lily was pointing. Through a gap in the stones, he glimpsed movement, a shadow that rippled and shifted like water. It danced just beyond visibility, taunting them with its evasiveness. The shape was amorphous, not quite solid, but it had those unsettling golden eyes. "What do we do?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with panic. Tom felt the weight of despair settle heavy on his chest. "We stay still. It can't see us if we don't move." The moment shifted, the air thickening, and the shadow coiled itself, almost sensing their fear. It slinked closer, its golden eyes boring into them, feeding off the terror that seeped from their very souls. Then he felt something wrap around his leg, soft yet firm. "Mommy." Lily's voice trembled, fear swimming in her wide eyes. Tom's breath caught in his throat. "Get back," he shouted, but his words were swallowed by the stillness. The shadow surged forward, filling the gap where sunlight dared not tread. The darkness enveloped them, smothering their screams. Suddenly, the laughter pierced the air again, surrounding them, a cacophony of chaos. It filled their minds with dread, twisting echoes that reverberated until nothing felt real anymore. Tom closed his eyes, gripping Lily's tiny hand, hoping for an escape, an end to the madness, but when he opened them again, they were no longer hidden. The laughter felt like it was right inside the ruins now, mocking them. "Tom!" Sarah gasped, a mix of fear and realization. And in that instant, with horror sinking its claws deeper into their reality, they understood. The shadows were no mere figment, they were the voyeurs of their despair. What if they want us to join them? As the shadows encroached, every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Where would they end up? Would it be madness or something worse? The darkness loomed closer, swallowing their only hope. And then the laughter stopped, replaced by a hollow silence that screamed. What awaited them in that suffocating quiet? The shadows were hungry. What would they demand in return? The crushing silence was nearly deafening, amplifying the frantic beating of Tom's heart. He squinted into the darkness, trying to catch a glimpse of the encroaching shadow. But it was far too close now, bearing down on them, enveloping them in a suffocating shroud. "Tom, do you think it's gone?" Sarah's quivering voice broke the tension, laced with a fragile hope that felt inadequate against the creeping dread. "Stay quiet," he whispered, his voice strained. They could not give in to the fear, they had to remain calm. But how could they? The chill creeping through the ruins seemed alive, latching onto their skin and burrowing into their very souls. The weight of despair felt palpable, hanging like a shroud around them. Suddenly, the ground beneath them rattled, startling Tom and sending his pulse skyrocketing. "What was that?" he hissed, his eyes darting to the floor. Cracks splintered through the stone like veins, pulsating with a ghostly light. "Something is coming," Lily whined, clutching Tom's arm with clammy fingers. Her wide, innocent eyes shimmered with terror. The shadows shifted again, now accompanied by a low, humming resonance that vibrated in Tom's bones. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, a beast awakening from a long slumber. "Stay together," Tom instructed, feeling the resolve within him harden. Their survival depended on unity. The laughter, the whispers, maybe they were merely distractions, designed to pick them apart. Another tremor, louder this time. The stones around them moaned, a deep baritone sound that escaped from deep within the earth. Tom pressed his back against Sarah to shield Lily, locking eyes with her. "On 3, we break for the exit. Understand?" he murmured, feeling the tremors build, a countdown of its own. "Okay." Sarah's voice quivered, her eyes never leaving the shadows. 1, 2, 3. With a deep breath, he surged forward, pulling Sarah and Lily with him. But the moment they moved, the shadow roiled, its golden eyes narrowing in their direction. "Stop!" it hissed, the voice dripping with malice. Tom froze, fear flooding his veins. It was just a voice, yet it held such power. Lily whimpered, her grip tightening painfully on his hand. "Come back to us." The whisper danced through the air, each syllable heavy with temptation. "Join us in the darkness." "No!" Tom shouted, his voice breaking. He pressed on, forcing himself forward despite the sheer weight of the air that sought to pull them back. Suddenly, the darkness shifted, forming into fleeting shapes. Faces emerged, expressions twisted in anguish and fervor, their mouths curled into silent screams, their eyes pleading for release. "Mommy!" Lily squeaked, eyes wide, terror etched in her small features. "They're so sad." "Keep moving," Sarah urged, her breath tangling in panic. Tom felt his own heart murmur deep with dread. They were closing in. He could sense it, the weight of despair thickening, suffocating. But something nagged at him. Was this darkness anchored in their desperation? The golden eyes of the shadow bore into him, a chilling sensation crawling over his skin. "You can't escape, Tom. You're part of this now." Just as that dark voice threatened to consume him, a sliver of light broke through the trees outside the crumbling structure. A genuine escape. "Over there!" he yelled, pointing toward the faint glimmer. They bolted, adrenaline propelling them as they sprinted, the shadows lashing out behind them, reaching with desperate claws. But as they neared the exit, the ground shook violently, sending Tom sprawling. He could feel the shadow's breath against his neck, cold and suffocating. "Tom!" Sarah cried, turning back to face him. They had to escape together, there was no room for error. In that moment, time froze. Would he let go, slipping through the grasp of terror for one last shot at salvation? Would he reach for Sarah, risking it all to save his family? The darkness flickered, momentarily wavering as if testing its own strength. He felt the tug of despair gnawing at him, whispering temptations of surrender. But could they truly break free? What awaited them beyond the wall of darkness? As he prepared to reclaim his strength, the laughter erupted once more, echoing ominously as it faded to a taunting whisper. Stay forever. What was it going to take to escape? Would they pay an even darker price for freedom? Tom's heart hammered against his chest as he pushed himself off the ground. Suddenly, a heavy weight pressed down on him, as if the darkness had a solid form, anchoring him to spot. He gritted his teeth, gathering all his strength. He had to fight. There was no other choice. "Tom! Come on!" Sarah's voice snapped him back. She was still holding Lily, eyes wide with fear, urgently beckoning him. The shadow shrieked, a cacophonous sound vibrating in his ears, demanding his surrender. Just ahead, that glimmer of light flickered, taunting him with a promise of safety. With a grunt, he lunged forward, racing toward them, but the grip of despair was relentless. The shadows snapped at his heels, cold fingers brushing against his back, trying to pull him into their abyss. "Run!" he shouted, not sure where the words were coming from. The three of them surged forward, adrenaline fueling their flight through the narrowing stone corridor. The luminous sliver seemed to pulse, urging them to escape. Suddenly, the ground gave way, splintering beneath their feet. Tom stumbled, grabbing the edge of a crumbling wall, desperately holding on as stones cascaded into the chasm below. "Tom!" Sarah screamed, the sheer panic in her voice breaking him. He looked back, eyes wide. "The shadows! They're coming!" Lily cried, her voice resonating with unthinkable terror. With one last surge of determination, he heaved himself up against the weight of the tangible dread clinging to him and reached for Sarah. "Grab my hand." As her fingers wrapped around his, a piercing wail erupted behind them. The shadow twisted, reforming into a dark figure with demonic intensity. Its golden eyes gleamed hungrily as it clawed the air, seeking to reclaim its prize. "Let go of her," he snarled, pulling Sarah and Lily with every ounce of willpower left in him. The trio stumbled, and with every step, the voices grew louder, clawing at their minds, dredging up their worst fears. "Tom, it's too strong," Sarah shouted over the din. The echoes of despair filled the air around them like a somber hymn. "Just a little further." He could see the exit getting closer but felt the shadows brush against him, slithering up his legs, wrapping around his arms, pulling him back into the abyss. "No! Not now!" he screamed. They erupted from the darkness, bursting into bright daylight, blinding for a moment. But the relief was short-lived. The world around them was not as it should be. Trees stood in twisted formations, their gnarled branches reaching like skeletal hands. The once warm sunlight now appeared colder, casting ominous shadows. "Did we escape?" Lily asked, breathless, looking up at Tom with innocent eyes. "Not yet," he muttered, scanning the eerie landscape, the realization settling in something had followed them. The air felt thick and heavy, laden with impending doom. From behind a densely clustered grove, the laughter echoed again, the kind of laughter that sent chills spiraling down his spine. It was joyful yet bone-chilling, a mocking celebration of their escape. "Tom!" Sarah's voice broke through, alerting him. He turned, and a shadow quickly flitted past, unsettling the leaves. "No," he breathed. "It's not over." They needed shelter, somewhere safe where they could regroup and understand what they were up against. "Over there." Sarah pointed to an old, crumbling cabin resting at the edge of the woods, swallowed partially by encroaching vines. "Let us go," Tom urged, urging them toward it. But even as they approached, the walls seemed to whisper their secrets, the door yawning wide as if beckoning them inside. "Do you hear that?" Lily's small voice trembled as they stepped closer. A sound lingered within, soft yet imploring. "Oh God, we shouldn't," Sarah whispered, instinctively pulling Lily close. Tom hesitated. But it might be safe. But as they lingered at the threshold, the laughter rang again, this time mixed with the whispers of those trapped in the shadows. "Come in, Tom, join us." And just like that, Tom felt the darkness clawing back, wrenching at the edges of his mind. What would he sacrifice to save his family? Would he open that door and face what lay inside, or let the darkness claim them all? The cabin loomed before them like a grave, its door wide enough to swallow them whole. Tom felt the shadows pulsate around him, a hungry tide awaiting their next move. He glanced back at Sarah and Lily, who wore matching expressions of dread. Their eyes darted from the door to the encroaching darkness that stayed just beyond the light. "Tom," Sarah started, her voice trembling. "We can't go in there." The laughter echoed again, a sinister melody that twisted through the air. "Come in, Tom, join us." The voice sounded sweet yet serpentine, wrapping around his mind, teasing him with promises of safety. He felt an urge, a compulsion to step forward. "Maybe it's a trap," Lily whispered, clutching Sarah's hand. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within Tom. Maybe they want us to enter to consume us. But even as he thought it, doubt crept in. What if the shadows crowded outside were worse? The whispers became louder, drowning his reason. "Listen," he said, stepping closer. It might be the only way to find out what's happening. Maybe we can turn the tides on whatever's hunting us. He knew it wasn't right, but desperation clawed at him, urging him to take that leap. We can't. Sarah exclaimed. It's dark in there. We might lose each other. Tom swallowed this fear, bitterness filling his throat. He caught a glimpse of something moving in the trees, a flicker of movement. A shape, shifting in the periphery, watching. Instinct turned his spine cold. Stay close, he commanded, pushing down his own panic. Slowly, he led them to the door, a fragile barrier between them and whatever wickedness awaited inside. As he stepped over the threshold, the air shifted. A stale scent hit him like a wall, thick and musty, filled with unspoken horrors. Shadows writhed along the walls, dancing in the dim light that filtered through cracked windows. Don't look back, he murmured, forcing himself deeper into the unknown. He could feel the walls shift subtly as if the cabin itself was alive, absorbing their fear. A chill crawled over his skin as he reached for the light switch on the wall, but instead found only the cold touch of wood. A creaking noise echoed behind them, the door swinging shut with a jarring bang. The sound reverberated in the silence like the tolling of a death knell. Panic surged through Sarah's eyes, and Lily began to whimper softly. What if it's a mistake? Sarah muttered, voice barely containing her rising hysteria. Tom took a deep breath, desperate to restore calm. It's too late. We have to see if there's a way out or answers. Just stay close. The room opened in front of them, shadows shifting, pulling back to reveal disheveled remnants of a once cozy space, old furniture draped in dust, a table set as if waiting for a meal that would never come. Every surface bore witness to a forgotten life, yet something strange lurked in the corners, a sense of eyes watching. Lily let out a squeak. What's that? Pointing to a locked trunk in the far corner with intricate carvings, heart racing, Tom stepped forward, but something stopped him, an intense sensation, a freezing chill that reached deep into his bones. Don't touch it, he warned, his voice echoing sharply. But what if it's... Just don't. He snapped, filled with desperation. The walls vibrated in anticipation, holding secrets of ancient despair. The cabin seemed to revel in their fear, the air thick with dark intent. Each pulse of laughter echoed again, mixing with a newfound creeping sound, a low growl that sent tremors through him, the unmistakably sinister promise of the shadows closing in. Then, without warning, the trunk sprang open, revealing a swirling mist. What the hell? Tom breathed, eyes widening in terror as he felt the very air around them thicken. Tom, look out! Sarah screamed just as the mist began to spill forth, twisting around their feet, wrapping like tentacles around their legs. He turned, helplessly watching as each shadow in the room seemed to rise and stand, taking form. Run! He shouted, but the cabin rocked violently, doors slamming shut as if conspiring against them. In that moment, he realized they had only entered the belly of the beast. Would they be able to escape this horrific embrace, or had they unwittingly sealed their fate? What lay within the mist? And who or what would they face next? The mist twisted higher, filling the room with a cold, damp dread. It eddied and flowed, reaching out like fingers intent on pulling them into its suffocating embrace. Tom's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the urgency of their predicament. Get away from it! He yelled, but Sarah and Lily were rooted in place, eyes wide with terror. Shadows flickered with life around them, growing larger, more defined, as if they were drinking in their fear. Tom! Sarah cried, her voice quavering as panic overtook her. What do we do? We can't stay here. Just then, a figure emerged from the mist, a tall silhouette, indistinct yet menacing. Tom's blood froze as it drew closer. There were no features, just an emptiness that clawed at his sanity. Join us, it whispered, the voice distant yet incredibly near. It reverberated, wrapping around him like a noose. No! He shouted, battling against the creature's pull. But it felt like a weight pressing down on him, suffocating and relentless. With every ounce of will, he grasped Sarah's arm tightly, trying to pull her away from the crawling mist. As if sensing his resolve, the figure lunged, and an icy hand brushed against Tom's wrist. He could feel something dark and ancient in its touch, a promise of despair that sent his mind spiraling. Suddenly, Lily darted to the left, breaking the spell. "Over there. Look." She pointed to a window, caked with grime, but surprisingly intact. A new hope surged through Tom as he turned toward it, clutching the girls tightly. "Follow me," he urged, pushing through the thickening mist. The figure shrieked, a sound that echoed and shattered like glass, making Tom's bones rattle. He glanced behind, desperation clawing at him when he saw the shadows coalescing into a tide, rising up to engulf them. Time twisted, each second dragged like lead, the mist pulling at his every step. "Run!" he shouted, leading them toward the window. They stumbled through the room, dodging the reaching darkness, but the figure surged closer, determined to reclaim its prey. As they neared the window, Tom could see their frantic reflections, pale and terrified. He cried out for strength, knowing they had to escape before it was too late. Just as they reached the glass, a heavy thud shook the cabin, rattling their bones. The window creaked but held fast. It wouldn't break. Sarah panicked, her eyes darting to the corners of the room, searching for an exit that might save them. Lily gasped, "The trunk. The mist came from there. We have to close it." Tom hesitated, knowing they had no time to waste. Yet deep down, instinct screamed at him that the trunk might be the key to all of this, that it might hold the answer to their survival or their doom. "No time. We have to." But the growl resounded again, louder, more thunderous. The shadows lunged forward, merging into a single wave, and Tom felt the air grow thick with despair. Suddenly, the room erupted in chaos. The trunk rattled violently, as if something inside struggled to be set free. With a glance over his shoulder at the storm of darkness behind them, Tom grabbed Lily's hand and pulled her toward the trunk. "Help me close it," he shouted. They dashed back, uncertainty racing through them. Tom could see the outlines of the figures forming behind him, a sea of bodies thick and ravenous, ready to take them. "We can't let it out," Tom yelled as they approached the trunk. With a fierce determination, Tom shoved Lily's hand down onto the heavy lid as Sarah joined in. They pressed with all their might, the mist swirling tighter around their ankles. "Now!" As the lid clicked shut, there was a moment of breathless silence. The shadows halted, the figures flickering like candles caught in a draft. But in that instant, Tom realized they were only waiting, coiled tight like a spring, ready to unleash their wrath. "What now?" Sarah gasped, fear stark in her voice as they fell back, panting against the now stilled trunk, but before Tom could answer, the trunk began to tremble. A pulse resonated through the cabin, drawing their eyes wide open. The mist seeped out along the cracks, spreading beneath the door, and the laughter returned, mingling with the growls, an orchestra of madness that shrieked within the walls. Howling winds roared from the darkness, sending shivers down their spines. "Something is coming," Tom whispered, as a shadow moved behind them, approaching with relentless intent, and in that horrible moment, he knew the nightmare was only just beginning. The floorboards creaked ominously beneath them as Tom, Sarah, and Lily pressed their backs against the trunk, breathing heavily, the pulse of fear vibrating in the air. Each thud of the trunk resonated like a drumroll heralding their inevitable doom, sending adrenaline coursing through Tom's veins. Is it over?" Sarah's voice trembled, her eyes darting around the dimly lit room, searching for any sign of salvation. Shadows danced mischievously along the walls, taunting their fragility. "No, it's not over. We have to go," Tom insisted, his gaze locked on the door where the mist wriggled like frantic, greedy serpents. He fought the urge to look behind him, terrified of what shadows might loom there. Lily whimpered, "But where? Where can we even go?" The air thickened with dread as the tremors from the trunk subsided, leaving a heavy silence that seemed to swallow their words. Suddenly, a sickening crack split through the stillness. The door splintered and a monstrous hand, dark as the void, pushed through the jagged opening. "Run!" Tom screamed, adrenaline igniting his limbs. Without thinking, he grabbed Lily's arm and yanked her into motion. They sprinted across the cabin, their footsteps muffled by the mist that slithered around their ankles. The throaty growls of the shadows were now a fanfare of terror, echoing in their ears. It felt like the walls themselves were closing in, eager to consume them whole. They reached another room, but it too was cloaked in gloom. Broken furniture lay strewn across the floor, remnants of forgotten lives. Tom caught himself imagining the people who once lived here, oblivious to the evil watching them now. "Here. This way." He spotted a narrow staircase leading upward, a faint glimmer of hope flickering in his mind. He pushed the girls ahead of him and slammed the door shut, turning the handle with shaking hands. The door rattled violently, the shadows clawing at it, growling in frustration. "Hurry!" Tom urged, his heart racing as he listened to the forceful impacts against the wood. They hurried up the stairs, each creak underfoot sounding like a wailing scream. The oppressive darkness couldn't touch them here, or so he thought. As they ascended, the temperature fell, and an unseen weight settled on their chests, making it hard to breathe. At the top, they reached a small landing that opened into an attic, the window tortuously high. Dust motes floated in the beam of a dying light, and old, tarped furniture stood like sentinels arranged in a macabre display. "Help me with those," Tom said, pointing to an old, heavy dresser pushed against the wall. They dragged and shoved the dresser near the window, hoping to climb to safety. Suddenly, the door below gave way with a bone-jarring smash, and a mass of shadows spilled into the stairwell. It was a horrific sight, an amalgamation of faces twisted in anguish, mouths agape in silent screams, darting fingers reaching out with ravenous hunger. Time stopped. Terror surged as he realized that escape was slipping through their fingers. "Go! Quickly!" he shouted, panic surging through him, pushing Lily and Sarah toward the dresser. They scrambled to grab it, but the shadows surged closer, and Tom's heart sank as he realized how impossibly vast the darkness was. Just as the first shadow reached the bottom of the stairs, he climbed up on the dresser, pulling the girls along with him. "Don't look down," he warned, lifting the heavy window. In the attic's dim light, he caught a glimpse of the wild, swirling mist outside, dancing with anticipation, as if waiting for their committed plunge into the unknown. A loud crash echoed behind them, and the dresser trembled under their weight. The shadows lunged, flinging themselves at the three. "Tom! Please!" Lily screamed, eyes wide with fear. "It's now or never," he growled, and together, they shoved their way through the window, the night air rushing towards them. But even as they leapt into freedom, Tom heard the laughter of the shadows, a sound that pierced the night and filled him with a sinking dread. They were never alone. And as they landed on the ground, he realized the nightmare might have only just begun. "What have we done?" Sarah whispered, horror painting her face as they scrambled to their feet, catching their breaths, but the answer lay in the deepening fog swirling around them, a darker secret lurking just beneath the surface of the night. And it was searching for them. As they stood in the cold night air, Tom felt a chill crawl up his spine. Shadows stretched across the ground, twisting and curling as if alive. "What now?" Sarah whispered, clutching Lily tightly. Tom scanned their surroundings, heart racing with uncertainty. The woods loomed ominously, branches swaying like fingers beckoning them into the darkness. "We can't stay here," Tom urged, the urgency in his voice cutting through the thickening air. Every instinct screamed for them to run, but where would they go? Everything felt tainted. Lily tugged at Sarah's sleeve, her voice small and shaky. "Mommy, I want to go home." Tom's chest tightened at the sound of her fear. "We'll get home. I promise," he said, steeling his resolve even as the shadows danced mockingly around them. He remembered the trunk they had closed. What had they trapped inside? "We need to find shelter, somewhere safe," he suggested. "Let us head back toward the road." As they dashed away from the cabin, the shadows pulled at their heels, whispering sweetly. Stay forever. The taunts wrapped around Tom's mind like a vice, begging him to surrender. He balled his fists, forcing his feet to push through the suffocating dread. Suddenly, lights flickered in the distance, breaking through the oppressive night. A warm glow fought against the darkness, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Look!" Sarah exclaimed, voice tinged with hope. It drew them in, a beacon that pierced the veil of horror they had stepped into. Tom's heart raced as they approached a small road, flanked by ancient trees. The light shimmered from a distance, casting soft yellow hues on the ground. "Maybe it's a house or something," he said, urgency flooding his veins. They stumbled onto the narrow shoulder and sprinted toward the glow. As they reached a clearing, a small cottage appeared, its windows glowing brightly. A shimmering light spilled from the door as if it were welcoming them. "What if it's a trap?" Tom whispered, but Sarah took Lily's hand and stepped forward, unsuspecting. "We have to take a chance." Before Tom could say anything, they were enveloped in the warmth of the cottage. Inside, soft music played, an inviting melody that melted away the horror they defaced. A kindly old woman looked over at them with a gentle smile. "Welcome, dear ones. You've arrived just in time." "Who are you?" Tom queried, suspicion still weaving through his mind. He felt like they'd entered a dream where safety and comfort intertwined. "I'm just a caretaker," she replied, her voice soothing as honey. "This place offers sanctuary from darkness. You've been through so much. Come, rest." Even as he fought against his instincts, the pull of comfort coaxed him. "What's inside?" "A place of healing. You'll see," she promised, gesturing for them to sit down around a wooden table set with steaming mugs. The inviting aroma of hot cocoa wafted through the air, almost intoxicating. As they sank into their chairs, Tom glanced at Sarah and Lily. Their eyes sparkled with uncertainty, but hope flickered to life, just like the light illuminating the cottage. As they sipped the hot cocoa, warmth spread through their weary bodies. The shadows outside pulsated softly, whispering through the trees, but inside was an oasis away from chaos. Tom eyed the walls adorned with bright tapestries depicting joy and peace, feeling a layer of dread peeling away. "Is this real?" he wondered aloud. "Sometimes, it takes darkness for us to find true light," the woman said softly, her gaze steady. "You've shown resilience in the face of fear. Believe it or not, every encounter has purpose." "How do we know we're safe here?" Sarah pressed, still searching for the reality hidden beneath comfort. The woman paused, eyes shining. "Safety is a choice to believe. But you must be ready to face what follows. Shadows are drawn to fear, and you've hardly escaped their grasp." With that, an unsettling chill swept through the cottage, and the music stopped. A whisper echoed in the air, a familiar taunt slipping through cracks in their newfound refuge. "Join us." Fear rekindled. "It's them!" Tom shouted, heart racing again. "Hold on!" the woman exclaimed, standing tall. "The darkness cannot enter unless you allow it to. You must confront it directly to reclaim what is yours." Tom took a deep breath, processing her words. They defaced horrific truths. It was time to accept their reality. "But how?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "Through courage," the woman said. "Your own light is stronger than the shadows that haunt you. Refuse their whispers, offer them resolve." Tom nodded, the fire of determination igniting in his chest. "We can't let them win. We are together. We are not alone." They looked at one another, hands clasped, grounding each other. They shared a moment of united strength, a spark of hope ignited amidst blurry fears. "Let us face it," he declared. "Together." The shadows howled outside, but the warmth of the cottage began to thrum warmly beneath them. They emerged from the warmth, heart steady, taking each stride with purpose, their bond unwavering. As they stepped outside, facing the wall of darkness. Shadows writhed and snarled, but they stood firm. "You will not take us!" Tom shouted, spirit roaring against encroaching despair. The shadows recoiled momentarily, and one by one, they began to fade. The cacophony of mockery turned into a wail of desperation howling against the strong will of the trio, bonding in strength. "We are more than fear," Sarah added, with newfound courage. Then, for the first time, the lingering darkness began to relinquish its hold. As they stood firm, the horizon filled with dawn's first light. In that awakening, they shattered the grip of shadows, laughter started to fade, the promises of despair finally relinquished. Together, they whispered, unyielding against the rising sun, a newfound weight lifted from their hearts, the darkness that had once consumed them faded as they emerged into the light, a hopeful embrace of freedom washing over their souls, knowing they were finally free, and just as the sun set beautifully behind them, they knew true safety would always come through the courage they chose. Their light unyielding, together against the shadows. Now go forth, and remember what lies within one choice. Can break the darkness. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel so that we can bring you more profound tales like this one.